Hey everyone, this is Demo from Wins with Data. In this tutorial, we're going to provide a step-by-step guide with examples on how you can merge two or more different data tables together. And we're going to provide a conceptual tutorial on different types of merge, how they compare, why they are different, what's the use case for each of them, how you can apply them. Now, our focus is on providing a guide that is accessible to all backgrounds. So you may have some technical or coding background or not. Regardless of that, we're going to provide a tutorial that should be hopefully accessible for a use case, especially if you're not technical professional, that you have a couple of spreadsheets that you need to merge them, or if you're a beginner of data journey, you want to apply this use case. Hopefully this is useful for you. Now, this example, my data comes from Google Sheet, but your data could be from Excel, Google Sheet, or any other data source. Regardless of where the source, the example should be applicable. Now, let's look at the example of the sheet as well. Just quickly, I go over that later in the video in more depth. But let's say you have two tables of individuals with ID and names, and another in the table on ID and the order amounts related to each ID. So this is some monetary value, expenses on each order, stuff like that. We want to apply them in and merge them and combine them in different ways, whether they find a match in this table or they find a match in this table, or there is a match in either of them, or everything, or just include the ones that we find a match in both tables, stuff like that. So we're gonna go over different types of merge and see how actually we can execute those regardless of whether your data is big or small, whether it's simple using Excel or not. This is actually a Python tutorial, but regardless of your Python or coding background, I'm going to provide a solution where you can execute it in your system without the need of installing anything and without the need of knowing a deep Python background, actually, which you should be able to quickly apply that on any Google Sheet that you have. Let's look at the step-by-step guide next. Okay, so this is my code platform. Again, the link for that is an accessible project. The link, everything is available in description. From the link, you should be able to have access to this platform in your browser, and you can take a copy from file and save a copy in your Google Drive, and then you're good to go to use it and customize it for your own need. If you use this platform Google Colab before, then perfect. If not, then that's online editor platform for running Python using it's actually for from Google as well, Google Colab, and we're gonna use that because it's such a portable and nice option to use without the need of installing anything in your system, actually, especially if you don't already use Python in your system. If you use, then you can download it as a notebook and run it in your Python editor if you have any in your system as well. So actually the first step is initial setting and packages, and in this case I have my data from Google Sheets, so I need to connect the Google Colab, which is this environment, to Google Sheet, right? So that's the code that I use for that. Now, if you use Google Colab as it is and you don't want to do anything else in your own system, then you should be good with this one. You don't need any more customization. But if you're using in any other system, you need to customize it. So from any editor that you use, you can connect to where your data exists. Again, in this case, my data is from Google Sheet, and I have some normal usual packages that I'm using as well. So once I actually run this, the Google Colab environment wants to authenticate and have permission to connect to my Google Sheet. Actually, it's not Google Drive, it's Google Sheet in my Google account where my data exists. So I allow this connection, and it takes a little bit while, and then you're gonna get a green check mark here that then we're already connected. Let's actually have our data as well, the main data. So this is a data of individuals, first name, last name, their ID, their contact information, their job title, some information about these profiles of individuals. So profiles is first table. The second table is orders. So each of these individual what has been their order ID and their expenses over the period of time that we have in this data. So as you can see, comparing the profiles and orders data, there is 3 columns that is common: ID of individuals, first names, and last names. So this could be some sort of employee ID, user ID, or whatever. So the merge between the two tables, or even more than two tables, could be based on at least one identifier, one column, or more. So here we have actually more than one. So we're gonna also provide how you can, based on your use case, merge based on one or a couple of columns, and you need to understand your data to be able to see which combination of columns is the correct unique identifier or your data to be able to link and merge or combine the data set. In this case, user ID is a unique identifier for me, so I'm going to use that because number 1 is just for one individual, and if I find it in the order data as well, so I'm sure that it's the same person. The next best thing, I have also first name and last name. I don't necessarily need to use them, but this is another thing that you can base on. Let's say if you don't have a user ID, you can use first name and last name, or maybe some other combination. In this case, that's the only one that I can use because that's what I see in my order day data. But of course, there is a caveat that first name and last name could not be unique identifier as well. So it could be different individual with same first name and last name. So this, based on your use case, you need to make the decision of what columns to use, your merge based on that. So that's my data. We're gonna provide more explanation on how we're gonna actually merge them. So I already ran this. Now next step is actually I'm gonna read my data and provide 2 different objects in this environment. One of them called profiles, one of them called orders. I have 2 data in this example. Because I read it from Google Sheet, that's the piece of code you need. This is just to overview the data, same data that we have, the first 5 observation. And I have the profiles and orders. Now, next step. Now you may want to apply some operation on the data. Let's say you want to sort them, filter, get a subset of this data set based on some sort of condition, so filter or slice the data, or you may want to get rid of the duplicates. You may have some duplicates, you want to get rid of them. So there is some operation that you want to apply in your spreadsheet data. I provide the link for some of our video tutorials that could actually address these 3 examples of the needs if you want to apply another operation before actually merging them. So I leave it in the actual file that you have access to the link in the description. You can find the link for them. Next step, let's say for so far we have access to our data in this environment, we can read it, profiles and orders are the 2 names, and if you need any operation you already applied on it, sorting, filtering, removing duplicates, anything based on that. This step is actually merging. So we have 4 types of merge that we want to cover here. This piece of code apply the first type. So in this case I actually have 4 objects, method 1, 2, 3, 4. I call it left, right, inner, and outer. So this is the 4 types of merge: left merge, right merge, inner merge, and outer merge. So essentially what I need to do in this case, let me zoom in a little bit. This is my merge code. Again, you don't need to customize a lot, just the name of the 2 data tables that you have. If you have different names, customize them, and what is the ID variable that you're using. So I have 2 examples here. Either I'm gonna use just unique 1 column, which is ID, and from left and from right, both of them is actually called same name, right? In my data, this is called ID. Now in other data this could be called something else, but if that's the same information, but let's say it's some other, let's say the name is user ID, but it's the same as ID in profiles table. So in that case you can have the name of the ID variable. If that's different from ID, just put it whatever it is. In this case actually both of them are ID. I could also, another alternative, this is doing the same thing, it's another option to use first name and last name combination. You can even use more than 2. Let's say ID, first name and last name. If you're not sure that one of the columns just ID provides unique variable, then you can add more and have multiple columns based on your merge. So that's what we're doing, and when you run this, we're gonna provide there you go, this final output. Now the type of merge we specified here on how we said this is method 1. If you change it to method 2, 3, 4, you're gonna have different types of merge. Now let's actually look what are these different type of merge in a conceptual example, and then we can actually see under the hood what's happening, what's this final output that we get here. Let's look at that in next part of the video. Okay, so in order for this to be a little bit more clear, I have actually two simplified example of data. Let's call it, this is my profiles data and this is my order data. Right? At the end of the day, I want to have some sort of table like this. I want to have ID of individuals, their names, and their order amount. Right? Of course, my main table, you have many more columns from either of these two. But this could be the same concept. Now, the final merge is depending on essentially whether I want to add all the matched or unmatched rows from profiles or orders. So the first type is left merge. Left merge is that the condition is provide all the data rows and observations, all the rows in the left table form is profiles. So everything included in profiles, include them, regardless of whether they are matched or not matched with order. So in this example, as you can see, ID2 only exists actually with, so ID2 only exists in profile, in this left table. Let me color it. So this is the observation ID2 that I cannot find it here. So if we merge them, it's going to be an unmatched ID with orders. It only exists in the left table. Similarly, in here, I have ID5 that only exists in order or right table in this case. So that's also, the question is, do we want to include this unmatched observation or not? The all other observation 1, 3, and 4, they have both observation in profile and orders. And of course, it's possible to have multiple lines with same ID, but they have different order amount, or they are different, they are not duplicated, they are actually valid values. So it's common to have that situation. Merge method left, it includes everything from left, which is, as you can see, 1A, which is here, 1 has 2 order amount, 2, 3, 4, and 23. So I include both of them. 2B, it doesn't have any correspondence to order, so this is empty or missing value, but we still included it because we are using the merge method left. Merge method right, it do it the other way. It includes everything from the right table or order table. So even though if it's matched or unmatched, regardless of it, it includes both of it. So in this case, ID5, it doesn't have any match to profiles or left table, but it still includes it with, so the columns from the left or profiles table is going to be missing because there is no correspondence for them. The outer merge is include everything from both table, regardless of that being matched or not. So 2 and 5 ID, they were our unmatched examples in both tables. As you can see, both of them exist, but of course in this situation we're gonna have missing or empty values, cells in here, right? The other extreme is when you want to have inner type of merge. So inner merge is when you want to have just the matched observation from both tables. So if you have anything with missing data, we don't have any missing value because of the merge. So we exclude the 2 and 5 in this example, right? So left, right, outer, inner. So depending on your use case, let's say in use case, if my main information is profiles, I need to have this profile information, and my question is which one of these profiles has some sort of order amount. In that case, my use case is actually left, using profiles as left, because I want to keep this information and I want to know which one of them have missing or empty order or zero order, and which one of them have some number for order, some value actually for the order. So in this case I'm going to use left. But if you had a use case when you also want to include a situation when there is some sort of order, but we don't know the profile of those individuals maybe in the order column, so you use outer in this case. So regardless of whether those individuals have profile or not, we want to get them, because it could be an issue in our system that this user 5, boy, we don't have the user profile value for this individual ID 5. Right, so you need to consider that based on your use case, what is the correct type of merge. So now let's get back to the code. Now we know what is doing under the hood. When we use method 1 and that is left, and that's actually use the all matched and unmatched value, unmatched rows from the profile or left table, as I included here. So that's and that gives me my output, right? If that's what you need and that's your merge, then you're done. You need to skip to the step when we actually save the output. Next step is you can change this to method 2. That would be in here or here, and then you're gonna have the right format. The inner format or method 3 is the one when you include only the matched data or data points or rows from both data sets. So that would be this one, and I'm just changing the how method, right? And this is the outer method when we include everything. So there you go. That is our merge done. One more step. Let's say if you have 3 or more data set, how you want to actually customize this for your need. In that case, you need to uncomment this. So this I commented out. I'm getting rid of the comment. My table of using the merge 2 columns is output, called output. I put it. Let's say I have a third table. Now your name, whatever the name of the table, you could just put the name of table here. And of course, if you import it, however, you need to go up and import that table from some sort of sheet as well. In this example, I had 2 sheets of profiles and orders. From Google Sheet, I add them, right? If you have a 3 example, either use it for Google Sheet or any other way, you need to import it and name it, and use that name here, and then what is the actually column value from the 2 table that you want to use. So if it's ID from output now is our left data set, and this third table is our right data set. And also specify what's the method. You have your essentially output 2, which is after your third merge, and you can go over fourth and fifth similar to that and add codes based on that. So let's say now you're done, you have your final merge data. This is just saving or storing the tables. Now in this example, I just merged it and added as a new worksheet tab called merge data to the same Google Sheet that I have. That's how I save it. But if you just need to save it in some other, let's see what's the issue here. Okay, so issue is fixed. You can just run this and you have your item added to the Google Sheet. One thing you want to make sure that it's working is that you want to add, if you're saving it to Google Sheet, you want to name a new worksheet that doesn't exist already in your Google Sheet. So merge data, this worksheet is not exist there, doesn't exist there. And also sometimes if you have some missing data, you may find some error in the data. So I added this line, which essentially what it does, it includes an empty string for empty value for all the missing data. So again, it's not a big deal actually for you in this case. It's just you don't need to customize it, and this is how it works. And if I go to my final data, there you go, I have my table. This is essentially the information that I have, and I have, as you can see, my columns from both tables here. So one other thing, if you have same column name from two different data sets. In this case, I actually merged using first name and last name from left table and right table. There was a unique column name ID in both tables. If there is a common column name in two tables, that column name are going to be named two things, ID X and ID Y. So if you don't want this to happen, either get rid of them, change the name of the columns, or one thing you can do, you can go back here and in the method that you used, actually first name and last name, you can use add ID as well. So all the common column name. But if actually the common column name, those column is not the one to be used to base your merging, then you just need to be aware of that, change of the column names at the end and rename it if you want. So that's just a final trick to add, and that's my final data. I have it in the same format that I had in Google Sheet, and I can go ahead and work with it in however I want. Hopefully this is useful for your use case. Let me know in the comment if you have any issue, any question based on your need and use case. See you in next video.